All right, boy, you can see we are getting some work done today. And now that we have finally got our bodega done, our crew can actually begin doing the work that they need to do. Yesterday was the first day of actually building the physical house itself. With that said, I was talking to the contractor just before we started on the construction shed. And I asked, how long do you think it will take to build this house in Costa Rica? His response was, if we lived in a perfect world, we should be able to build this house by starting day 1 with building the construction shed, our bodega, and day 90 being that we hand the keys to the owner. And that's when I realized I started counting way too soon. In reality, we started building the construction shed on what I called day 18. So it took us 18 days to actually get our site ready to build. But the contractor said day 1 starts with building of the construction shed. So I'm rewinding my countdown timer. And day 1, we began building the construction shed. And now on day 5, we've started laying out the foundation. Of course, you're going to lay out the foundation based on your house plan. As you can see here, we have 4 huge column foundations we need for this house. Remember, the whole underside of this house will be a garage, and the first level of the house will be upstairs. This column foundation is the largest, and that's because it will hold up the retaining wall and have some column supports to hold up this side of the house. The center column foundation will support the center of the house, and on the other side are 2 more column foundations that will support the other side of the house. As you can see from the center of the columns, an I-beam will be welded to the top of the cement column plate and will support the whole house. And the small column supports are for the staircase. Now that we understand the blueprints, we can use this information to lay out our foundation with string. It's extremely important to get this right. Our builder must get the layout square and the column support level and in the right place. If you do not get this right, building the rest of the house will be very difficult. After we have strung out the foundation, we can bring in the tractor to start digging the column foundations. In the next video, I'll go into detail about why we are building our house with column foundations instead of a regular flat foundation typically seen in the United States or Canada. How deep the tractor has to dig will depend on several factors. The thickness of your foundation will be determined on the size of your house. Is it a 1-story or multiple-story house? How deep down the tractor must dig for those foundations will depend on the type of soil you have and is determined by the soil samples and the soil compaction test. If you have clay or soft soil, you'll need to go deeper. If your soil is hard and compacts very easy, you will not have to go nearly as deep. So let's just talk briefly about what the guys are doing. As you can see, we have some really massive holes here. The holes have been dug deep according to what is needed for the size of this house. The whole bottom of this is going to be a garage, and the first floor is going to start about 10 feet up. We're going to talk about several different aspects as we go through this series, just to give you an idea so that you know the details about each part of it. For example, before you can even get to this stage of your build, let's kind of back up a little bit. First, you got to find the piece of property that you want to build on. You want to make sure to watch that video in itself as to, hey, when you get ready to buy property, should you buy property that's on the beach? Should you buy it in the mountains? Somewhere in between? It's important to know the difference between those properties. Can you get a title? Not a title. once you finally do decide on a piece of property, well, the very first thing you do before you even buy the property is get a soil test. That's number one and the most important thing. Once you get a soil test, then you need to get that to an architect or an engineer, because with that soil test, then they can determine whether or not you actually want to build on that property. Because that property, depending on the soil, it may be extremely expensive to build there, or they might just suggest not building there at all, okay? So there's a lot of things to consider, but first you got to have that soil test, then you want to talk to your engineer, and then the architecture designs everything, and then decides how deep these holes need to be. Because depending on the size of your house, and this is considered a 2-story house, since the main living area is going to be up top, then your foundation, the larger your house, the bigger these holes need to be in order to support all that weight. But I'll show you a comparison video where in this video, we tore down this house and the foundations for that 2-story house was really about 8 to 9 inches. Well, why is that? Well, that's something that you need to be aware of if you don't have the right builder. If he's inexperienced, or maybe he's trying to cut corners, you're now trying to build this beautiful house, your life's investment on an 8 inches of slab, that's going to cause you serious problems. You don't want to make that mistake. So it's extremely important that you find the right builder. So in the event you're saying, well, Alan, I have no clue. How do I get the right engineer, the right architect, the right builder? Well, remember, you can always schedule your free 20-minute phone consultation. That way, our professionals can help you get the right people, the right crew, so you don't run into any problems, and so that you don't make the costly mistake of hiring an inexperienced builder, or maybe he's experienced, but he's cutting corners because he's trying to pocket money. You know, no matter where you live at in the world, you're going to have unethical or crooked people. And in Costa Rica, unfortunately, that does happen more common than in other places, okay? But that's nothing for you to be scared of, because we can make sure to help you get the right people for the right job to help you enjoy another happy day in Costa Rica. After the column foundation holes are dug, we need to create a bed for our rebar support system to sit on. We'll fill the hose with good compaction grade gravel to create the bed for our rebar support system. Spread out several bags of cement, then compact the rocks, wet it with a hose, or let the rain do that part for us. Then we can lay the rebar support system in the column foundation hose. After those are in place, the team can start building the actual rebar support system for the columns. All of that work took our crew several days, and now we're ready to fill our hose with cement. Because our road is so steep, we had to hire a cement pump truck, which means the pump truck only needs to get close enough to our location, and his huge pumping system will be able to pump cement wherever it needs to go. The actual cement truck backs up to the pump truck and dumps the cement into the pump truck's hopper. An operator has a remote control on his waist and is able to direct this huge arm wherever it needs to go in order to drop the cement. It doesn't take long to fill up these holes. To make sure we have a good solid foundation, we use this large cement vibrator to get all of the air bubbles out of the cement and to make sure cement gets into all of the nooks and crannies underneath all of the wire, everywhere it needs to be to have a solid foundation.